There's something killing African American babies at an alarming rate, and it's outpacing all other causes of death combined in the black community. Sources say it's the reason African Americans have been displaced by the Hispanic community, which is now the largest minority in our nation. Join us as we investigate what's behind this threat and what's being done to stop it. I met with Dr. Alveda King, the daughter of the late A.D. King, one of the key civil rights strategists and the brother to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I learned about her role in carrying on the King legacy, a path filled with trials and tragedies. Your house was bombed.
Yeah.
The devastation was appalling by the pictures.
Yeah.
And then your father's church was bombed, and then they got your dad.
My father was killed in 1969. Reverend Alfred Daniel Williams King, the third child of Reverend A.D. of Dr. Martin Luther King Sr. and Alberta King. And he worked with his brother. Daddy was one of the chief civil rights strategists, and they worked together. So when Martin was assassinated in '68, many people compare it to the Kennedy brothers. And well, you could not kill Martin without killing A.D. So Dad was found in our swimming pool. He was a championship swimmer at Morehouse College, but he was found in our swimming pool dead with no water in his lungs in 1969.
And the killing didn't end there, right?
Well, tragically, and what many people do not understand, a few years later at Ebenezer Baptist Church, a man named Marcus Wayne Chenault came in and asked an usher, "Where is Mrs. King?" He was looking for Coretta Scott King. The usher, because Mama King, Daddy King's wife, was the first lady of the church, he assumed that that's who the gentleman was looking for. He said, "There she is playing the organ." And so the gunman took a front seat with a case that nobody knew was a gun case. And he opened it up and opened fire, and he shot my grandmother while she was playing the organ.
So you lost your grandmother,
Yeah.
your uncle, and your
And my
father.
dad in these tragedies of the civil rights movement.
As the founder of King for America, Dr. Alveda King is working toward eliminating social and economic injustices. She says one of the primary issues facing America today is abortion. When you talk about discrimination against the black community regarding abortion, or reproductive racism as it's called,
Right.
you come from a point of view that is intimately involved with a lifetime of discrimination, so you know what you're talking about.
That is true. And I say very often, abortion is not a civil right. And I say very often, a woman has a right to choose what she does with her body. But when I held my first baby, I knew he wasn't my body. I'm a female, he's a male. And you could tell I was his mother, but he had his own life. And he had had it for 9 months prior to me holding him in my arms. And so I say to women all the time, yes, you have a right to choose what you do with your body. The baby is not your body. The baby's like a slave in the womb of his or her mother. So we take away their rights to live. Abortion is very oppressive, and it affects the civil rights of not only the baby who is killed in the abortion process almost every time, but the civil rights of women. I'm a post-abortive woman. I've had abortions. And my right to know that by having the abortion, I bought the lies of Planned Parenthood, and I believed that it wouldn't hurt more than getting a tooth pulled. All of that was a big lie. I did not know that I would be opening up my life to fights against breast cancer and cervical cancer and depression and alcohol abuse, many problems. I was alienated from my family, because that wasn't something that you can go and say to your family, I'm having an abortion. And so that's how I ended up having 2 abortions. Finally, I was about to have a 3rd abortion, and I did go to my family. I went to Dr. Martin Luther King Sr., my granddaddy, and I said, I'm going to have an abortion. It won't hurt worse than pulling a tooth. And he says, oh no, we don't kill babies. He said, that's my grandbaby. You're not going to kill that baby. And that baby today is 30 years old. Pro-life is a King family position. Martin Luther King Jr. said, the Negro cannot win if he's willing to sacrifice the futures of his children for immediate personal comfort and safety. When we return, we'll meet Shannon, who says she found Planned Parenthood because they met her needs at a time when she didn't have health insurance.
Faces
Shannon Nixon is working toward a master's degree in community counseling. In the wake of recent events in her life, she is re-evaluating where she goes for medical services. Shannon, you've had a past experience with Planned Parenthood.
Yes, I had quite a few experiences with Planned Parenthood. I began going to Planned Parenthood for their medical services. When I first got out of college, I didn't have health insurance because I was still looking for a job. So I knew Planned Parenthood offered medical services, so I went there for those services.
And what was your experience like? What did you find out while you were there?
I went there and Planned Parenthood, when I had a Pap test, they found precancer cells for cervical cancer, because when I was 17 years old, I was sexually assaulted and I contracted HPV, which caused cervical cancer. So they actually found early signs of cervical cancer. And so I went there and they did further testing, and then they referred me to a specialist. And from there, I continued to go for my follow-up visits. And at the time, I was sexually active, so I went there for birth control. There was a couple occasions where I thought I could have been pregnant because I missed pills or whatnot, and I went there for the morning after pill. Those are the medical services that I got from them.
Did they provide good medical care?
It was good health care. I think that one of the ways that Planned Parenthood has become so familiar with a lot of younger people who don't have health insurance or can't afford it is because they do offer good medical services on a sliding scale.
Once Shannon's lifestyle changed, she took on a new perspective about the way Planned Parenthood does business.
Once I decided not to be sexually active and I didn't want the contraceptives, but I still needed to go for the medical services, they would be kind of forceful and asking more questions. Well, why don't you want condoms? Or why don't you want birth control? Are you trying to be pregnant? And I'm like, well, no, I just don't want them because I don't need them.
Do you think that there were ulterior motives for providing medical services?
Just their way into, to people who are low income and don't have good health insurance, and like young women that go there, that's their way in to, they provide those services. So if a woman did get in a situation where she actually became pregnant, they will easily be able to, provide the services if they choose to have an abortion or whatnot.
I sat down with Arnold Culbreth, the Urban Outreach Director at Life Issues Institute, to learn more about the number of women, specifically African American women, going to Planned Parenthood for abortions. The African American community is facing a threat today. What is that?
Well, a major threat that the African American community is facing is abortion. When you ask the average African American what is the leading cause of death in the Black community, the overwhelming majority of them will go to AIDS, cancer, heart disease, those kinds of things. But the leading killer of African Americans is abortion.
How many African American babies have been killed by abortion?
Since 1973, there have been over 14 million Black babies killed by abortion. That is the total population of 7 states. And as this problem continues to happen, that is only going to increase.
Coming up,
there's an alarming rate at which African American women are having abortions.
How does that make you feel as a Black woman to know that the abortion industry is targeting the African American community? Since 1973, over 14 million Black babies have been aborted. As Arnold Culbreth pointed out earlier, that's the total population of 7 states. By the end of today, 1,200 Black babies will be aborted. Would you say Black women are having more abortions than white women?
No, I would not say that Black women are having more abortions than white women. However, there's an alarming rate at which African American women are having abortions.
And what is that?
Well, we're having abortions at 3 times our population.
What is the percentage of women going into abortion clinics?
African American women only make up 13% of the female population, but we're having 37% of the abortions. A lot of lives are at stake. It's similar to a bank account. You continue to withdraw money at a faster rate than you're putting money in. Eventually you have no bank account. And that's similar to what is happening in the black community relative to abortion.
Would you say the abortion industry is targeting black women?
Yes, I would say that the abortion industry is targeting black women.
How does that make you feel as a black woman to know that the abortion industry is targeting the African American community?
Well, it's one of the most racist acts, very similar to what happened to Dred Scott and to black people in the past, where Dred Scott, a slave, was ruled as not human. He was, I think, told 3/5 human. Mm-hmm. And because you're 3/5 human, Dred Scott, not Mr. Scott, but just Dred Scott, you can't vote and you're a chattel, and whatever your owner wants to do with you is what will be. And I believe that that's the same thing that is said of a baby of a minority birth or a minority conception. You're not a human being. And so if society feels that it's not worthwhile for you to live, then you don't have to live because you're not a human being.
In 1857, Dred Scott, a black man from St. Louis, was brought before the courts in a decision that ruled blacks to be the property of their owner and not legal persons. In 1973, Roe v. Wade ruled a baby is the property of the mother and not a legal person, thus legalizing abortion.
In a period of 10 short years, from 1990 to 2000, the Hispanic population has passed the African American population. The birth rate of the African American community and the Hispanic community is very similar. However, the Hispanic community is birthing more babies than the African American community. By that I mean they're carrying more babies to term, whereas we are aborting more of our babies, and they've passed us up.
Do you think the reasons for abortion vary depending upon the racial background of the woman?
Yes and no. People assume that African American women, perhaps, or Hispanic women, have abortions because of economics, but that's not always the case. Many times in every ethnic community, I hear the same responses: I want to finish school, or I don't have the money, or the baby's daddy doesn't want me and I'm not doing this by myself. And so I don't see that the responses being ethnically related, but I see the targeting of the ethnic groups, and that's in the black community and in the Hispanic community. I was recently in Alaska, and the natives in Alaska are targeted. I've been over in Hawaii, and I find that the natives there are targeted. And they're targeted by abortion providers who put the largest majority of their centers, abortion mills, in minority communities.
According to research done by Life Issues Institute, over 62% of Planned Parenthood facilities are located in predominantly African American communities. Planned Parenthood is the largest abortion provider in America. They may seem like an organization set up to help women, but do they really tell them all the facts?
They never told me about the repercussions, one, of the birth control itself, how dangerous that was. And when they said they'd help me with this little problem and they did the abortion, they did not tell me that I could be subject to breast cancer, cervical cancer. They told me of none of the risk. They did not tell me that I was a baby. And so many women who choose abortion, they just don't know. And see, that's an invasion. A woman has a civil right to know how this procedure will affect her life. And there have been laws passed, and the clinics are supposed to educate and tell the women, but they don't do it. And so I don't feel that I was treated fairly. I don't feel that I was aware of my options and everything. Nobody said, you can have the baby, we'll help you.
Still to come, what do you think women need to know about abortion?
That's a good question.
This week I'm talking with three people who are each speaking out on the number one killer of African Americans in this country, abortion. Shannon, what do you think women need to know about abortion?
I think that for me, really, like I'm in a new transformation and thinking about abortion, because before I thought that a woman should have a choice, just being a victim of sexual assault or a victim of incest. But now, by me becoming healed from and delivered from different ways of thinking, I think that women need to know that abortion, I think it could cause more harm than good. Find out the facts about abortion, especially African American women need to find out the facts about abortion and statistics or whatnot, but just know that it can cause more harm than good.
What's been the reaction of the African American community to this information?
Well, the African American community, sad to say, is largely unaware of this situation. Hence the reason we are on the crusade that we're on, is to educate as many as we can about this problem. But more specifically about your question, the overwhelming response we get from people is, we just didn't know. Why hasn't somebody told us? Where has this information been?
Now, the fact that the abortion industry appears to be targeting the African American community, how would you explain the motivation behind this or the purpose for this?
Well, I would encourage our listeners to, or our viewers, to do a little bit of research on Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, who founded the Birth Control League, which was Planned Parenthood's original name. And studies will show you that she was a racist, she was a eugenicist, and firmly believed that blacks, as well as the poor of society, should be eradicated. And even though Planned Parenthood seems to fight to cover that up, that agenda appears to still be alive and well in their practices.
Give me an example of what they'd find.
Well, they'll find significant articles and things that were written and published in the Birth Control Review, which was the paper that she was editor of for many, many years, that clearly share her views, as well as other contributing writers' views that were also published in the Birth Control Review.
And these advocated keeping the black population from reproducing?
Yes, the black, the poor, inferior of our society the population ought to be controlled and kept to a minimum.
Why haven't the black community and the white community of pro-life people worked more effectively to end abortion?
Well, the white community in the pro-life movement have been working very intently and intentionally to connect with the African American community, share this startling truths, but they've met with some opposition. Opposition in that there's been doubt as to the motive behind the sharing of the information. There's been skepticism about the accuracy of the facts. They've been accused of it being a political agenda and all of those kinds of things. So there's been a mistrust of the white community by the black community.
So Arnold, what makes your effort then more successful than what's been done before?
The reason that the message is a little more palatable for the African American community in this case is because the messenger looks like they look. Also, the information and statistics that we're sharing with them are not made up. They come from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control. They come from the Census Bureau. They come from the Alan Guttmacher Institute, which is the research arm of Planned Parenthood. And this is information that's readily available. We encourage the people that we're sharing this message to go back, check the statistics and information for themselves, as opposed to simply taking our word at face value.
Do you think that abortion is really the result of deeper issues in society?
Abortion is a result of a society that looks more to self And so society now says, let me gratify me at the cost of everything else. And so at the root of that is a spirit or a heart that says, self is more important than anything else. And when we say that, we see a suffering society.
Do you think we can change behavior and change the abortion statistics?
We are changing behavior. We are changing the abortion statistics by just informing the masses and the populace.
That is our role, is to educate as many people as we possibly can about this problem. I mean, this is catastrophic. 1,200 black babies killed by abortion every day. 425,000 black babies killed by abortion every year. Over 14 million black babies aborted in 34 years. That's an atrocity.
Abortion is the #1 killer in the African American community. In just one day, it claims the lives of 1,200 innocent black babies. This injustice should outrage us all.